Plex City is known to be one of the most fabulous railways, especially its railroad and the scenery. Plex Railway was known as once was Single Plex City, which still exists on the last corridor just before Grant. And Grant Station was the transfer station that had all three major railroads. The single plex named David, who happens to be a Frisco Black 5 hybrid locomotive. Of course, he wasn't a duplex. He was a single plex locomotive that just has a chassis of a Frisco class locomotive, along with a Black 5 dome. He was considered a single plex locomotive to begin with. Next was Dave. Dave was the only locomotive available who helped around the yards and handles mixed traffic jobs, such as pulling freight cars and pulling coaches. So what happened towards the triplexes? Don't worry, they haven't been touched a bit. His name was Triple Threat. A light guy with a tough heart and shows a lot of support when his family needs it, aka his friends. However, he was the only express engine that does not do heavy goods. And next is Scar, a quadplex locomotive who is known for pulling heavy goods. And finally, Quinn. His stature was the only thing about her. Or should I say she. Quinn is known as a quinplex locomotive, the only locomotive of her kind that at least talks. However, there was another locomotive that later joined. Her name was Tammy Turner Duplex. She's an articulated duplex locomotive that was built at Kildane. She was the only other locomotive that was alive and well, and she had brothers and sisters, unlike her predecessor before her in Plex City. As Tammy arrived, the diesel locomotive was chatting in the shed before she arrived. Her name was Gutter, and this is what she had to say. It's so in fairness that the railway was actually kind enough, at least the articulation boys, for me to stay at their workshops until I was fully repaired, she said excitedly. Well, we cannot really argue results, said Scar. Indeed, said Quinn. I hope the other three are okay. I mean, after all, Triple Threat, David, and what's the other one? We call him Double Vision. Ah, right, Double Vision. Those three are hard-working as is. Are you sure we shouldn't help? Nah, they got this. I mean, think about it. David is excellent. But it's hardly at night now, said David. I can concur. I keep running these trains non-stop, said Double Vision. I could concur, said Triple Threat. The only reason why I'm actually even running right now is because I've been stuck with passengers. I mean, look at me. I'm a triplex. Way much more powerful than double vision. No offense. None taken, the pair said. Just then, a whistle was blown, and it sounded different. It sounded like this. The engine roared into the station, and she pumped her brakes and later reversed in the shed, with her generator humming underneath the sound of the night. Ah, you must be the newcomer, said Triple Threat intimidatedly. Quinn noticed. So, you're the predecessor of me, are you? Gutter, she also looked. Huh. A big boy chassis with a hint of duplexity, said Gutter. I'm Tammy. I am a duplex articulation locomotive. The 6 locomotives were stunned. So, you're the newcomer because of the merger or because you were built in Grant's workshops? Mixture of both, my dear, she said. I am no stranger to hard work, just like any of you. I show humility. That's all I know. But then again, I am here because you guys cannot seem to handle the simplest of jobs. And I'm the express traffic mix. Coaches and cars at high speed. Gloating already, said Double Vision. I do not trust this one, said Triple Threat. Gutter, who was especially annoyed, spoke up. Listen here, youngster. Around here, we take hard work into consideration and pride. If you don't obey by those rules, the controller will have you sent flying out before you can say Switcher Montgomery Johnson. Quinn also spoke. Oh, I could concur. I remember my first day here, and let me just tell you, I learned the hard way. Yeah. You're older than me, you guys are wiser, you know better, blah, blah, blah. All I hear is bullshit. However, the next day, the locomotive started to go at work. And it was a beautiful day on Plex City, and it happened to be Halloween. Every year the engines get to work. However, the manager decided to visit the shed before today's task, and his name was George Flouet. Morning, Mr. Foulet, said David. Morning, engines, and good morning, David. Today, I have informed, or at least I hope y'all, met our newest addition. An articulated duplex locomotive named Tammy. Oh, we did, sir, said Gutter. She's nothing but more than a prat, she said. Ho, ho, ho. No need to get your works up. After all, Tammy is just freshly built out from Kildane. So why have a British locomotive here? Said Triple Threat. Because, Triple Threat, we need all the help we can get. And therefore, You all need to get to work. And so they did. They worked as normal, except David had to show her the ropes. Alright, this is what you do, Tammy. Just go ahead and shunt like any other train, but you have to treat coaches very delicately. I'll work on the goods, you work on the coaches. But I don't want to work on cars. The freight trains you cannot handle. Mr. Fillet said so. And it's strictly forbidden for any locomotive of your stature get taught in reverse. Industrial engines are different. Now get to work. And so she did, without having any arguments about it. However, there was more than what meets the eye. The locomotive in question seemed to enjoy her work a little too much, and that would lead her to soon take a train of her own after she set up all the coaches where they needed to go. Of course, Mr. Fillet never really liked locomotives to take passengers after shunting, but David would later soon get her affiliated with goods work. All right, now shunt these trains right here that you see over to the platform. And basically, all you have to do is go nice and slow and gently, he said. Nice and gently, said Tammy. Got it. She soon got to work, and she was working real hard, making sure the train is not over the platform, but also not under the platform limit. She got it exactly and kept doing so. After David took the last of the trains, Tammy was just sitting there, waiting for something to happen. Of course, that's when Mr. Fillet showed up. Tammy. Yes, Mr. Fillet, she said cheerfully. I need you to take this freight train from here all the way down to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cheyenne, Wyoming? I've never been there. That's quite all right. It's down south. And remember, UK is north, so it's south of here. From there, you must enter Grant. Grant City is the area you need to be careful of. Obey the speed limits and make sure you get there on time. The guards will actually couple you up. Understood? Yes, sir, she said. She was later coupled up with the specialized setup that all Vilanders have. The British change and the American knuckles. These were the safeties, so that way no thief could actually steal it. As she began to puff out a station with the toot of her whistle, she steamed away down the tracks. During her time on the tracks, she began pondering what would the other engines say if she was caught red-handed and traveling down the tracks. Of course, as the beautiful day was settling down on a Halloween night, it was the greatest, or so would say. The route was simple. As soon as she left the yard, she went down the United States track, heading down through Russia's territory. In order to get to Canada, she had to persevere through the worst of the worst. However, as she did so, she noticed by the time she arrived at the Russian yard She finally made it into the Russian yards. However, she was very impatient as her crew stepped out of her, including the brake operator. "Oh, come on, George, it's not fair. Steven, get back in my cab. And Tony, come on, man, get back in the brake van. We gotta get moving. We cannot just blow through a checkpoint," said her driver. "Exactly," said her fireman. "This is just standard procedure." They both said it. Knowing that they were annoyed as well, they still had to follow protocol, as the Russian guards later came over. "Good evening, comrades. Of course, we're gonna make sure that you actually get to Canada. But first, we need to check everything is in order, your list, and making sure you're not carrying anything illegal." "Illegal? Never!" said Tammy with an attitude. "Don't get smarky," said the diesel locomotive. "Around here, comrade, you cannot be too careful. Smugglers have used trains for years, you know. You may never know what you'll be smuggling. Just be warned, youngster." "Ah!" Tammy groaned. She wasn't too happy that she was stuck at a yacht, and she was trying to show what her class was truly made of, but stopped by a checkpoint was the last thing she expected. But the guards were inspecting. After they found there was nothing illegal and checked everything off the paperwork list that blow through, they let them go through. "Take it easy, comrades. During the night, everything goes south real quick by the time you hit Canadian rain." And they soon set off from the Russian yards. As they left the Russian yards, they continued down the railroad tracks for several hundred miles till they reached Canadian territory into the night. As the Canadian ambiance began to fade in with the forest, things started to get a little uneasy. Something that has not happened to them in a long time. And yet, as she came into a crawl, she heard a familiar whistle that wasn't exactly hers, but it was familiar. As the engines puffed with the tension, as the rails hummed right beside her, a locomotive later dashed past her with that familiar shape that is hers, except this one was a tank engine roaring down the tracks, and it was a quinplex. However, it was different. It was almost similar to that of Quinn, but the engine itself was pulling a demonic passenger / freight train load as it reached and laughed maniacally. As it thundered through the valley and disappearing through the shrieks. Its mysterious animus later revealed to be another engine that disappeared. I do not believe it, said Tammy, being quivered. Did you see it, George? I did. It looked like it came out of hell. That train. Something was familiar about it. Don't go into a tizzy now. Listen. I know that engine. I'm sure you do, but right now we have a job to do, and we have to ponder whatever this is. I understand, but at the same time, I really don't. That was horrifying to say the least. Making this journey for both 3 and 4 people. Of course, this trip would not actually stop at Cheyenne, Wyoming until they get there. However, after they have passed through another checkpoint through Canadian customs, they still continued down their way after all that night. And they finally arrived in the United States of America. Going down the tracks as they rolled, there was nothing that they could do about it, all except watch full eye on the locomotive. They went through DC, California, and then New Mexico to where they finally arrived at Cheyenne, Wyoming.